fact. I grew up in Australia. I grew up the big sister of 7 children on a small dairy farm, and really didn't venture very far away from that rural community my whole childhood, my first 18 years. My parents both left school before they finished high school, and so there wasn't a lot of resources to travel far or expand our horizons. And so I was the first in my extended family to go to university. And I studied business. I did a marketing degree. And then I set off and really spent a lot of time in the next few years traveling around the world and just experiencing so many different cultures. And I went to India and Thailand and Europe and the United States and then Africa and the Middle East. And it really, I returned to Australia definitely very committed to living outside of Australia, not staying in Australia, but working professionally. And I met my husband in the midst of all this. We got married and moved to Papua New Guinea. And I'd had a couple of years working in the corporate world by the time we moved to Papua New Guinea. And I continued working professionally there. But while I was living in Port Moresby, which at the time was ranked one of the most dangerous cities in the world outside of a war zone, while I was living there working in marketing, I was client services manager for an advertising marketing company. I decided that actually I really wanted to do something that felt more meaningful to me. And so I went back to study part-time psychology, thinking that perhaps I would eventually become a psychologist. And I studied that off and on, and then in between having children. I had 4 children over 5 years. We moved back from PNG to Australia, and then we moved to the United States just after 9/11 in 2001. And while I was then in the United States, I decided to start my own business in coaching and in leadership development, in professional development. And it was a slow start because I had 4 young children. And I wanted to be around for them quite a bit. My husband's job had him traveling a lot. A new career in a new country where I had no professional network, very, very limited. Even personally, I was living in a suburb of Dallas, Texas. It took a lot of courage because it really challenged me on my own identity. Like, who am I? A lot of people related to me as a stay-at-home mum of 4 kids at that point. And they didn't see me as someone who could be in the professional realm. A lot of people just, I guess, kind of kept me in a box of being a stay-at-home mum. But I felt very called in my work to help people overcome the labels we put on ourselves, the beliefs we live into, and the fears we have that keep us from doing the things that would ultimately fulfill our own unique potential for each of us, which is different. So while living in Texas, I lived there for 4 years, I started going out and speaking for free at anywhere that would have me. And I would speak on how to communicate more effectively, how to manage commitments better, how to balance life better. I had 4 children myself. And then I moved to Washington, DC after 4 years. And when I arrived there, went out and networked as much as I could. I already had a bit of a base. And that's when I started working for NASA, running programs there on emotional intelligence and communication and leadership. And of course, most people, when they think of NASA, they think of people with extremely high IQs. They're so smart. What did you do at NASA? But even people who are super smart, literally rocket scientists, can struggle with those, we call them soft skills, but the soft skills are the hard skills. Those skills and the strategies to have the really crucial conversations, to get people aligned around common goals, to deal with conflict, etc. And I wrote my first book back then too. And yes, I've subsequently written 4 more books, but then things really took off. I started doing more media. I got asked to write for Forbes. I started running more and more leadership programs with more senior executive teams. And over time, it was a kind of a ripple effect. It was organic in many ways. I've been in Singapore for 3 years. I still facilitate programs for leadership teams. I do a lot of speaking, though at the moment they're all virtual. So needless to say, all of us have had very unique and different experiences this year that we didn't anticipate and could never have been fully prepared for. So to begin with, as everybody's been forced back into their homes and working from home, it's really shone a spotlight on the disparity of burden between who takes on a lot of those domestic duties. And while men and women, fathers and mothers, have both been sitting at home, often more of that workload has fallen onto the shoulders of women. And I think that's actually, there's been a lot of renegotiating going on in many homes as husbands and wives, partners have said, hey, let's figure out how to divide and conquer this in a more fair and equal way. Secondly, with everybody sitting doing Zoom meetings and or however Google Meets, however people are meeting up, I think it's changed. Women's got to have a lot more autonomy and flexibility in how they manage their workload as well. So for a long, long time, we've been saying we need to reconstruct what it is, organizational policies and norms, so that they are more female friendly, because the rigidity of having to be in an office from 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 9 to 5, whatever, is often worked against women who are trying to balance caretaking of children, of family, and their career. Because so many organizations now are saying we will no longer have it as a norm that everyone should be in the office every day. I see numerous organizations saying, from now on, we want people in the office 2 days a week, or they can work from home 2 days a week, or they can work from home permanently. And interestingly, I've also heard that virtual meetings have been empowering for women. I've heard numerous feedback now, anecdotal feedback, but I'm curious to do some more research on this. I'm currently just completing my doctoral studies actually in women, gender power and leadership. And that women have been more empowered to speak up in Zoom meetings and have found it less intimidating in a Zoom meeting when everyone's just a little dot, a thumbnail on a screen, than when people are sitting around a board table. I think that's very interesting, but it also speaks to some of the issues and dynamics that can often work against women and how women even can hold themselves back. The women's leadership aspect of all this. So many years ago, the thread that runs through all my work is helping people live and lead with courage. And it's relevant for women. It's relevant for everyone, but it's really relevant for women because of how we're socialized and conditioned in ways we don't even know, we often sell ourselves short. We often feel less deserving of positions of power and leadership. We often second guess our own strengths and the value we have to bring. And so women are much more likely to hold back from putting themselves forward for an opportunity or speaking up and disagreeing very respectfully in a conversation, or negotiating more for themselves. They're good at negotiating for others, but not always so good at negotiating for themselves. And so my work is obviously not gender specific, I do a lot of work with women. And about 5 years ago, started running Live Brave Women's Weekends just for women. And I would take about anywhere from 30 to 40 women away for an immersive weekend where they really had a look within themselves at where fear and self-beliefs were holding them back. And they've been really incredibly soul-satisfying for me. Leading teams, leading organizations through this time, it's absolutely imperative that leaders, those in positions of authority, harness emotional contagion in positive ways, that they show up with optimism, that we will get through this, that it's not the end of the world. They show up with a lot of calm, very calm. They don't speak in ways that are anxious. They talk in calm, confident, measured ways. And that they also instill courage in those around them. So they encourage people to look for opportunities. They don't say, okay, nobody, everyone, let's pull up the drawbridge. No, what are the opportunities here? And encourage and embolden people to look for the opportunities that the crisis always holds. Resilience isn't what we have, it's what we do. And leaders really leading with deliberate calm, unbounded optimism, and encouraging people not to focus on what could go wrong, but how can we make things more right. So I think self-compassion is also really important. When you slip up and fall down and fail to exercise or pray or meditate or eat well or whatever, forgive yourself, because you are human, and all of us have found this challenging. So it's not about being perfect. It's just about picking ourselves up quickly once we've fallen down and then getting back on the horse. Everything you want to do is going to require you embracing discomfort in some way. It's going to require you laying your ego, your pride, your comfort on the line for the sake of something more important. So embrace discomfort as a prerequisite for your success. Use language, don't talk yourself down. Particularly women have a habit of talking themselves down, of being too humble, or not taking a compliment, or not owning their successes and saying, oh yeah, but somebody helped me, or I just got lucky. So don't talk yourself down.